Hey, McCaskill here, and we are talking about parenting time. Parenting time schedules are the actual custody and parenting time schedule for when people get divorced or they separate and the children go back and forth between their houses. That's called a parenting time schedule. I've just put some examples. This list is not exhaustive. This is just the most common ones that I see, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about each of them. So if one person has what's called sole residential custody, that means that they're the parent of primary residence and the other parent has less than 104 overnights a year. Normally this schedule looks like dad has, or mom, but normally dad has every other weekend, which is 52 overnights a year. In that event, then mom has sole residential custody. A shared residential custody schedule is the parent of alternate residence has at least 104 overnights per year. That kind of schedule normally equates to every other weekend and one overnight during the week each week. Sometimes it's on a Wednesday because that's the middle of the week, and if you're trying to minimize the amount of time that the other parent doesn't get to see the children, then that's why usually it's a midweek, a Wednesday overnight. But it can really be any day of the week. Sometimes it's on a Monday, sometimes it's on a Thursday, because it's easier just to tack on to the weekend, every other weekend for the other parent. And then we also have 50-50 schedules. There's a couple of different ways to do 50-50. These are the ways that I see work the best because I have to go to court all the time to argue over custody and parenting time schedules, what's working, what's not working. So there's a lot of back and forth initially with any schedule, but you just have to let the dust settle and everybody adjust. And then once you have a schedule, a set schedule that everybody can rely on, meaning both parents as well as the children, everybody will adjust and do a lot better because then they can plan their lives and know what to expect on a day-to-day basis. So for 50-50 schedules, if you've got little kids, like I would say 10 and under, this is not what the law says, by the way. This is just my personal opinion of being a divorce lawyer for the last 17 years. If you've got children who are young, maybe 10 or 11 and under, I think the best schedule that works well is a 2-2-3 schedule. What that means is one parent has Monday and Tuesday each week, the other parent has Wednesday and Thursday each week, and then we alternate the weekends. And it's a 2-2-3, and we end up alternating. It's like a 2-week schedule. For the 10 plus crowd, a 2-2-5-5 works really well. That's similar to the 2-2. You're away from the children for 5 days at a time on a 2-week rotation, which means one parent has Monday, Tuesday each week, one parent has Wednesday, Thursday each week, and then we alternate Friday to Monday morning under the 2-2-5-5 schedule rather than just Friday to Sunday on the 2-2-3 schedule. When the children get older and they're teenagers, quite frankly, they can do whatever they want. They usually don't like a lot of back and forth, and I've seen a lot of teenagers be like, seriously, week on, week off. Because let's be real, teenagers really don't want to be with either parent. They want to hang out with their friends and yell on Fortnite. Now, if none of these schedules work for you, or some variation thereof, you really got to look at what works best for your family. There are cases that I have where dad's a fireman, so he's got a funky schedule, which is 24 hours on and then 72 hours off. So his schedule is constantly rotating. So you have to make adjustments that way. Or you've got one parent is a nurse or a doctor and they work in shifts. Police officers work in shifts. So we can figure all this out, but it really needs to be what works best for our family, how old are our children, and what works best for them. There are other things that you need to consider. If you live an hour away, if you leave the house and you move an hour away from your spouse and your children, you're not getting 50-50 custody because geographic proximity to each other actually really does make a difference. It's a big difference if you're in the same town versus 1 or 2 towns over versus an hour away versus a different state. So the closer that you live geographically to the other parent, that increases your chances to have more parenting time with your children, especially if you want a 50-50 parenting time schedule. Custody fights are really big, expensive fights to have. The court does have a mechanism by which they automatically send parties to mediation to start working on their parenting time schedule. There's also custody experts that can be retained to really weigh in if custody is seriously in dispute, but I encourage everyone to really put their shit aside and think about what's best for your children, and remember that you chose the other parent to be the other parent of your children. You chose them to be the mom, you chose them to be the dad. You now don't get to unchoose just because you're getting divorced. So keep what's best for your children in mind. Think about all this, and if you have any questions, as always, feel free to call me.